Hey folks, today I got my 2008 Toyota Tundra. If you want to go on adventures, you got to keep these things maintained. I've had this truck for a very long time. Today, I'm going to be changing out the antifreeze in the radiator. Trying to get it lined up so you guys can see that pepcock down there. Alright, there's just the corner of it right there. Just after the fan shroud. So that's what we're going to access from the bottom to be able to go ahead and drain this radiator. Okay folks, we're underneath my truck. And this right here is the skid plate. And on most vehicles, this is easy enough to take off. But I've had this truck in some pretty precarious spot, so mine is dinged up pretty bad, as you can see, so I cannot remove mine. Years ago, when I started having troubles, I took it over to a friend's and we cut this hole in there so I can access the oil filter without having to take the skid plate off. So again, I can't take that skid plate off in order to access this, but there's what we're looking for right there, and that's what's we're gonna open that up and then pop the radiator cap off, and that'll drain the antifreeze out of the radiator. We'll let that go and get the antifreeze out of the overflow. And today I'm not gonna go ahead and get into the block, so I'll get, the majority of the antifreeze replaced, but I try and do this every 2 to 3 years on this thing to keep it up and running. So all right, we'll get started. Okay, so I am accessing this through that hole that I have cut out for the oil filter. So righty tighty, we just break that thing loose. And there it goes. Catch this. So we're gonna let this drain for 15-20 minutes and I'll get back to you. All right folks, we're back up on top and this is the overflow, where anything flows in when the radiator's got too much fluid in it and gets too warm, goes back and forth, and that's one way that it also will burp itself. So at the bottom of this, there is that alligator clip right there, and then that black rubber hose. I'm going to pop that off and we'll drain this. And in addition, another thing that I do is I get distilled water now that the radiator is drained, and I just pour some of that in there, not to fill it up, but just trying to see if there's any contaminants or anything that I need to get out of there. So we'll let that run through, see if it pushes anything out. You can hear it now running into my container. And then the other thing is, here's that pepcock, and I just wanted to look at that. Nice and clean, no problems. Everything looks good on that. Okay folks, we're back. Everything's drained out. Ran some distilled water through there, trying to just make sure there's no contaminants, particles in there, and put everything back together. Now we're ready to fill this back up. So this is the kind that I get. Again, this is for my Tundra. I get the Asian vehicle Xerox, which says right on there for Toyotas, and then it is already pre-mixed at a 50-50. I get 3 of these 1-gallon jugs, and it's going to take pretty much all 3 of them, more or less, pretty close. And what I also get is I got a funnel here, and that way I can fill that up and even over a little bit, and then I'll start the truck up here in a little bit and we'll let that thing circulate through. Got to get the thermostat to open up so it can get the air out of the system. That thermostat, just so you know, is just right there. I've replaced that before a couple years ago. So anyway, here we go, we'll get started. All right, keep doing this with the next 2. Okay guys, just fired this thing up. Next thing we're gonna do So we're going to put the heat on, and we're going to run this thing on full bore. What we need to do is we need to get the thermostat to open up, so we can get that antifreeze circulating, make sure we're okay on our levels. See, right now obviously we have no temperature, but we'll get there. So we're gonna let this thing run. All right, folks, I still got this heat cranking here, and I am up to temperature. You see, it looks good as far as that goes. This thing's been running for about 10 minutes. Now we'll go out here again. And as you can see, this thing's just holding steady right there. I've also put some fluid in the overflow, and that's in between the low and the full line, so that should be good to go as well. A couple other things. Got my leftover, and I want to make sure you check down there that you tighten that pipcock back up so there's no fluid leaking, because that would be a big problem. Now, we have Firestones here, and so what I do is I take this, put it in the empty jugs that are right here, and I take this back to Firestone, and they are kind enough to go ahead and recycle this for me, no charge. So I'm gonna do that next, take this thing for a spin, make sure it's good to go. Hey folks, I just came back from Firestone dropping off my used antifreeze, and this temperature gauge looks perfect. However, I don't want to open the radiator cap until this thing cools down, so I'll probably do that tomorrow. But everything looks like it's great, like it should be. You can see the temperature gauge is just absolutely perfect. So I'll take a look at this thing later once it cools down. Good morning, guys. Next day here. If you recall, I left this overflow reservoir right about there, which is halfway between low and full. And you can see it suck some of that antifreeze back in once it cooled back down. So this is looking good, but I need to add some more to get this overflow back where I would like it. So this will be the last step, and then I'll just keep monitoring a little bit, but we should be good to go. All right, thanks.